Hello, welcome back to Storytime with Alex, reading Supernatural Night Terror by John Passarella. We're on chapter 21. Dean and Sam both seem to be getting close to some kind of clue, something to do with a mysterious doctor, something to do with Nightmare Theatre. Let's find out what happens next. Chapter 21. Dr. Gruesome? Dean asked. Seriously? Well, that's not his real name, Senior Officer Carleen Phillips said. She stood next to Dean in the small break room on the other side of the coffee station, sipping her steaming mug of joe as if it wasn't also burning a hole through her stomach lining. Dean wasn't so fortunate. The stuff was foul. Read it once, hard to remember or pronounce. Jeffrey smiled, and Dr. Gruesome rolls off the tongue. This Nightmare Theatre is real. Sure, Jeffrey said. On the air a couple of years now. Late-night horror movies, mostly old stuff. Dr. Gruesome comments during the commercial breaks. And he lives here in town. Yeah, but you might not recognise him without the mad scientist get-up and zombie makeup. Dean glanced up at the TV mounted on an adjustable metal arm in the corner of the break room. You have a guide for that? He asked. Sure, Philip said. There it is, on top of the microwave. But the show's not on now. Dean grabbed the thin newsprint TV Weekly magazine and flipped to the listings for the previous night, then the night before, working his way back to the start of the week. I'll be damned, he whispered. He looked up at the two cops. I need to talk to this guy. You know who you should ask, Philip said. Millie, our dispatcher. Dr. Gruesome's her cousin. That's right, Jeffrey said. She'll have his address or phone number. Dean tossed the magazine on the table and hurried towards the lobby exit. Jeffrey's called after him. Don't think he's a terrorist, do you? Hurrying across Main Street towards the Impala parked in the municipal lot, Dean called Sam on his cell phone. Sam, I got something. Me too, Sam said. Pick me up at Olga Kacharski's. Dean retraced his route and found Sam standing impatiently at the curb. Once Sam was inside the car, he said, She's not directly involved. Seemed genuinely surprised Bullinger and Lacosta were dead. But she has a connection to somebody who may be behind this. Even has a photo of him in the middle of dozens of her grandson. Let me guess, Dean said. Dr. Gruesome. What? How did you? TV host for a show called Nightmare Theatre? Right. I flipped through the TV listings for the week, Dean said. Know what I found? Movies this week featured a headless horseman, a giant Gila monster, and a giant tarantula. Off Dean's surprised look, Sam added, Mrs. Kacharski's a big fan of the show. I checked her guide. I got us one thing you didn't, Dean said with a wry smile. What's that? An appointment, of sorts. How? Talk to Cousin Millie. Dean glanced at the address Millie had written on a sticky note. Should be right ahead, Dean said. Dr. Gruesome, a.k.a. Joseph Wojciech, rent studio time here. He parked the Impala in the lot behind a long red brick building that, according to the sign in the front lawn, housed the headquarters of the local cable company. The Winchester brothers approached the rear door, which was protected by an overhang the width of an umbrella. Though the door had a keypad and card reader, Dean gave the handle a tug. Locked. State your business, a voice squawked from a speaker above the keypad. Sam noticed a security camera mounted above the door. He took out his FBI credentials and held them close to the camera lens. Dean pressed a black button above the speaker. FBI, Agents DeYoung and Shaw. We have an appointment to see Dr. Gruesome. A moment later, the door buzzed. Dean grabbed the handle and pulled it open. They entered a battleship grey lobby with a scuffed grey linoleum floor. Can't do words. Several moulded grey plastic chairs lined the near wall, positioned on either side of a small grey table piled with jumbled newspapers. Dean had the impression that all colour had suddenly been leached out of the world. On the far side of the lobby, a security guard with droopy eyes, bushy sideburns, and a noticeable beer gut sat inside what looked like a bulletproof glass booth. Cutting the crown jewels in there? Dean said in an undertone to Sam. The guard leaned forward and spoke into a microphone. His gravelly voice came through the speakers mounted at the top of the glass booth. Down the hall, first right. Studio's second door on your left. If the red light's on the door above, wait until it goes off. After those terse instructions, the guard pressed a button on his console. The inner door, adjacent to the guard booth, buzzed. Dean stepped forward and opened it. Have a wonderful day, Dean said before letting the door close behind him and Sam. Guy gave good directions, Dean thought. In a few moments they reached the studio door, where a red light mounted atop it was indeed aglow. Beneath the light, with her back pressed to the door, stood a frazzled-looking woman in her mid-30s, holding a clipboard in her crossed arms. As they approached, she turned her head towards them. "Agents DeYoung and Shaw," Dean said. "Just a minute or two," she said. "Dr. Gruesome in there?" Sam asked. "Redoing a few pre-recorded bits. Perfectionist." "And you are?" Sam asked. "Sandy DeCio. His producer, technical director, sometimes scriptwriter, and occasional director. Motivers juggle multiple crew positions." "Is the show national?" Sam asked. "He's national," she said, "if you get NMC in your cable or satellite package." "No offence," Sam said, "but I've never heard of Dr. Gruesome or Nightmare Theatre." "Nightmare Theatre isn't a show, per se," she said. "NMC's a 24-hour movie channel. They were airing old horror movies late at night and decided they needed to add some, pizzazz. Joseph had a friend at NMC. Found out what they were looking for, sent an audition tape and got the job. We pre-screen the movies and record a series of interstitials that play during commercial breaks." "Interstitials? Is that how you say it? I don't know," Dean asked. "Basically, short commentaries on what's happening in the movie as we go into and come out of commercial breaks. We take 15 to 20 bits for each movie, about 20 to 30 minutes of material, depending on the runtime of the movie." "So it's like the viewer is watching the movie with Dr. Gruesome," Sam said. "Exactly," Sandy said. "Technically, Dr. Gruesome is presenting the movie. Then he makes comments on it throughout. With a mad zombie scientist as your host, it's obviously cheesy and campy, but the ratings improved about 20% with the segments." Sam turned to Dean. "Olga Kucharski said Dr. Gruesome had become like a friend." "That's especially true of his fans in Clayton Falls," Sandy said. "Hometown celebrity, local pride." "Mad scientist next door," Dean said. "Right," Sandy said, forcing a smile. "All in fun." "You have no idea." Off her confused look, Dean pointed above her head to where the red light bulb had gone dark. "Oh, right," she said with a quick smile. "Cute, let's go." They followed her inside the studio. A control room behind glass on the right faced 3 cameras on wheeled tripods focused on the mad scientist laboratory set, which consisted of a single 3-walled room. The walls were covered with a faux stone texture. The broadside of a lab table occupied the foreground, its surface covered with various beakers and flasks and test tubes filled with multicoloured liquids and a Bunsen burner. Mounted to the walls was a steampunk-inspired network of glass tubes and meters attached to polished brass and iron piping, wheels, gears, and levers. In keeping with the intent of a show called Nightmare Theatre, the sprawling contraption looked functional and slightly ominous, but everything that looked metallic was, in all likelihood, painted plastic. 2 camera operators huddled around a short, bald man wearing a headset. "Al Dornfield, our floor director," Sandy said as she led them towards the man in zombie makeup wearing smudged goggles pushed up on his forehead, a white PVC lab coat and black gloves that extended to his elbows. "And this is our star, Dr. Gruesome." The man pulled off his gloves and offered a hand. "Call me Joe," he said with a pleasant smile that ruined the zombie effect. "I'm only a mad scientist returned from the dead by his own diabolical experiments while the cameras are on." "Agents DeYoung and Shaw," Dean said. "Right," Viturek said. "FBI. I can't imagine why, but Millie said you had some questions for me." "Hold that thought for a second," Sandy said. "Joe, I'll need to talk to you about scheduling when you're through with these gentlemen." She patted him on the shoulder before walking to the control room. "Sure, Sandy," Viturek called after her. Then he whispered to the Winchesters. "I know I drive her crazy sometimes, but it's my reputation on the air, my brand." Joe," Sam said, "are you aware of what's happening in town?" "The show keeps me busy," Viturek said. "We're on every night, so I don't often catch the news or read the paper. But I heard something about storm damage, power outages, and a big sinkhole at a convenience store, the Quick Mart, and a hit and run, 2 in 2 days. Awful. Oh, and someone said a man died falling out of a tree." "The man was killed by the tree," Dean said. "Not the fall? I'm afraid I don't understand." "The tree stabbed the man." "My hearing's not what it was," he said. "Did you just say a tree stabbed a man?" "With a branch," Dean said, "but that's not why we're here." "Thank heavens," he said. "Why are you here?" Several police officers, Agent DeYoung and I, witnessed other incidents last night that have a connection to your show, Sam said. A man was killed by a giant tarantula. The night before, another man was attacked by a giant Gila monster. That same night, 3 teens were chased by a headless horseman. As Sam spoke, Viterek's smile faltered and faded, but then his eyes widened and he chuckled, clapping his hands together in delight. Okay, this is somebody's idea of a joke, right? Hidden camera? It's Sandy getting payback, right? No joke, Dean said. 2 local men witnessed the tarantula attack. Again, Viterek's smile faded by degrees, a bit faster this time. He looked from Dean to Sam and back again. Either you have the best poker faces I've seen, or you are serious. He reached a hand out sideways and grabbed the edge of the laboratory table for support, then took a deep breath. These are popcorn movies, harmless entertainment, he said. I don't understand. This stuff isn't real. It can't be real. It's pure fantasy. Something is making it become real, Sam said. And we need to know if that something is you, Dean added. Me? How could anyone? Have you met anyone unusual lately? Sam asked. Found a strange old coin? Come across a peculiar antique? Received an odd inheritance? What? No, nothing like that. This is a daily routine for me. Screen the movies, work up the script for the interstitials, makeup and props, rehearse, record, edit. On television it may look all strange and surreal, but for us it's routine, mundane even. Dean looked at Sam. You got any ideas? Sam nodded, turned to Viterek. Do you remember a woman named Olga Kucharski? Olga Kucharski? No, should I? He snapped his fingers. Wait, Olga, is she an older woman? Ah, look who's talking. No spring chicken myself. But I do remember the woman from one of my personal appearances, very much into her Polish heritage. Seemed delighted to learn I was Polish too. Had me sign my full name on a publicity photo. Said it would have a nice place of honour in her home. That would be the lady, Sam said. Have you had any other dealings with her? Dealings? No, nothing. She's a fan of the show. Said she watches every night. He shrugged. I believe that appearance was the one and only time I've ever met her, but she did leave an impression. Dean looked at Sam, who gave him a barely perceptible shrug. They were both stumped. Just out of curiosity, Doc, Dean said, what movie are you working on now? Viterek beamed. Wonderfully cheesy space invasion flick about aliens with lobster claw hands that crack open human skulls and suck out the brains with their tentacle-like proboscis. You've got to be kidding me, Dean said. How do we kill them? Sam asked. If I tell you, it will spoil the movie. Dean rolled his eyes. We don't care about the friggin' movie. Oh, of course, Viterek said and frowned. They're bulletproof because of their exoskeletons. So the National Guard kills them with flamethrowers. Cooks them, actually. Ends with a joke about lobster bibs. Dean turned to Sam. Dude, we've got 0 flamethrowers in the Impala. We'll improvise, Sam said. Aerosol cans and cigarette lighters. Wait, Viterek said, catching Sam's arm. How do you believe these movie creations become real? People have nightmares, Sam said. The nightmares manifest in town somewhere. Viterek looked as if he wanted to request a thorough examination of their FBI credentials, but then decided against it. Even if it is somehow possible, the aliens won't be a problem. How so? Dean asked. We tape our interstitials a week ahead, he explained. Nobody will see this movie until next Saturday. Good, Sam said. One less nightmare scenario to worry about. Unless, of course, someone in my crew has a nightmare about it. Great, Dean said. I wouldn't worry. We watched the movie so many times while working on our scripts that they lose any shock value they might have, Viterek said. If anybody here has a nightmare, it would be about working overtime or not making a deadline. Thanks for your help, Sam said. Wait, what's tonight's feature? Oh yes, wolves. Werewolves? Dean asked apprehensively. No, regular wolves, Viterek said. Maybe a bit large, and there's a pack of them, and they're all rabid. They invade a small town and rip... We get the idea, Dean said. Thanks. As the Winchesters walked towards the studio door, Viterek called out for them to wait. They stopped and turned back. Listen, I can't help but think how crazy this all sounds, he said. And I promise you we've not changed our routine at all. I can't imagine a scenario where what you say is even possible. Your point? Dean asked. What you say is true, and I have no reason to doubt you. I can't ignore the fact that something unexplainable is happening, and it's somehow connected to my show. A man attacked by a giant tarantula? Want to see police report photos of the half-eaten victim? That's quite all right, Viterex said. I'm trying to say that I feel partly responsible for whatever is happening here. I want to help, but... He raised his shoulders, hands spread. I'm not sure what I can do. You want to help? Dean said. Convince NMC not to run the Wolf movie. Not run it? Preempt it, Sam said. With Lassie Come Home or something. Viterex pursed his lips. I'll try, but I don't know if they'll believe me, or listen. Maybe they can black out this market. Do what you can, Dean said. I will, he said. But the nature of nightmares is that they linger. We know, Sam said. Oh, and I'll talk to Millie, Viterex said. She'll have a record of all the emergency calls. Maybe that will help? Knock yourself out, Dean said. His mind had already leapt ahead, considering the likelihood that he and Sam would be shooting rabid wolves in several hours. At least wolves, unlike lobster-clawed aliens, weren't immune to bullets. As they exited the studio, Dean looked back and saw Sandy rejoin Viterex, handing him a towel to begin removing his makeup. The old man stared after the Winchesters, but his gaze seemed unfocused, lost in thought, a pensive zombie. Dean and Sam retraced their steps to the lobby. You got anything? Dean asked, because I got nothing. Whatever is happening, it's connected to Dr. Gruesome's show and Olga Kucharski, Sam said. The Gila monster, the Headless Horseman, and the Charger started this. If those two are not directly involved, something is using them. What about the raptors, and the sinkhole, and Nazi zombies? Like you said, nightmares linger, Sam said. We only checked 1 week of TV listings. Maybe movies about that stuff aired 2 weeks ago, or maybe not. I don't know. Exiting the building proved much simpler than entering. The droopy-eyed security guard barely looked up as they passed through the lobby and stepped outside. Sam paused and looked at Dean over the roof of the Impala. Got an idea. All ears, Sammy. Let's go with the premise that Olga Kucharski is patient zero. Okay. The most significant event in her life is the death of her grandson, Sam said. And 2 of the people who were with him when he died have been killed by the nightmare car. Right, Dean said, so we're back to her. Sam shook his head. Not directly, but something triggered this, something about that accident. But I'm missing something. Sounds like research dead ahead. I'll call Bobby, get him working the nightmare angle. Good. Then I need you to drop me off at the Fremont Ledger, Sam said. The online archives are a bit thin. I want to check back issues in their morgue, dating back to the accident. Watch out for that reporter, Nash, Dean said. Last thing we need is our pictures all over the paper. Right. While you're at the Ledger, I have something to check out. What's that? Last survivor of that car accident, Lucy Quinn. The way I see it, she's a big honking bullseye on her back. And that is the end of chapter 21. Join us for chapter 22. When we find out where Dean is really going to without Sam.